Hey everybody, I want to jump right in and show you something related to the uh, the Matthew 24, where the disciples asked Jesus three questions. I want to get into this here in just a second. Okay, I just had to increase the size of the video, or the font, so you can see it better. I noticed something. I did a study last year when I first started getting back into Bible prophecy. I considered myself asleep. Um, Actually, it was in 2011, the end of 2011, and the Lord one night woke me up when I got up really early, and I started researching YouTube just to see what people had to say about the end times. And I was shocked to see that everybody was on the verge. They felt that it was at any moment that Christ was going to come back, that the tribulation was going to begin. So I started some heavy-duty research. As a pre-trib Rapture believer, I really dove in, but I noticed myself shortly, within the next few weeks, at that time, that I was starting to see things that made me question why I believed the pre-trib rapture. And I don't believe anymore that that's biblical. In fact, I came to that conclusion only because of theologians would say that. And I just took for granted what they said. However, when I really just read the Bible for what it is, and I started researching end time passages as well as just reading and doing some research on Hebrew and studying the words, I noticed that I don't think anything what they said at the time might have been what was just research, because they didn't have anything like Bible tools that we have today. A tremendous amount of commentaries, many different translations of the Bible, in-depth studies, the internet. I mean, there's just an amazing amount of information we have today. So anyway, getting into what I was going to tell you was, when I studied this, I started looking at Matthew 24, obviously, because that's where really everything I've ever known to be the beginning of how we knew what the time of the end was. So I'm going to read this to you real quick. Now, as he sat at the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age?" Now, notice there's three questions the disciples asked. They wanted to know when these things would be, what will be the sign of your coming, and the end of the age. I want you to make very clear note of this. The disciples were asking Jesus what the end of the age is. Okay, the end of the church. This is all, and when I did my study, I was surprised actually that Jesus answered all three of these questions. He answered exactly what they asked him. The final thing that he mentioned was the end of the age, and that's really what I want to talk about. So, when will these things be? Jesus says, "For when you see, people coming in my name and saying they're the Christ." Then you'll hear wars or rumors of wars. So this is when these things will be. Okay. Then it says, "And what will be the sign of your coming?" I'm going to jump right to that, but then I also want to really dive into the end of the age. So, and what will be the sign of your coming? So that's the next question they asked Jesus. So 24:15, this is the middle of the tribulation period. Okay. I'm going to come down here a little bit. The sign of his coming. That's what we're going to get into. It says right down here in 24:29. Now, this is a big debate. People say because it says immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened. Everybody, I'm not kidding, even just about everybody says that this is the end of the tribulation, because it says immediately after the tribulation. I don't think that's at all what this is talking about, because remember, the disciples asked the question, when will be the end of the age? Now, when Jesus says, when you see immediately after the tribulation of those days, okay, it's not saying the tribulation, the entire 7-year period, which many people think that's what it's saying. It says the tribulation of those days. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. This is the sixth seal. We are talking about this clearly in Revelation 6. So I want to jump real fast to that. Hang on just a second with me. Sorry about this, folks. I'm getting into it here. Let me pause it. Okay, so here we are. We're in the Revelation chapter 6. And at around verse 15, I believe, or actually before that. "I looked, and he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black, and the moon became like blood, and the stars from heaven fell to the earth. Then the sky receded like a scroll when it was rolled up, and every place and island was moved out of its place. Okay, now listen to this. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich, everybody hid themselves in the caves and on the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Now clearly this is the wrath of God, the wrath of the Lamb, the Lord's day, the great tribulation. This is the midpoint. We know this is the middle because this is the same thing that Matthew 24 is talking about. When you see the sun and moon go dark, stars fall from heaven. Okay, so here's Matthew 24. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. So clearly, we are talking now at the middle. This is right before the wrath of God starts, or actually at that time when the wrath of God starts. Okay, the wrath of the Lamb, remember? It says, and hide us from the one who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come. This is the beginning of the wrath of God, the Lamb. So, and this is the middle of the 7-year tribulation. So now, and just real quick, let me just show you, because I know some people might dispute this and say, no, that's not true. But I want to show you something here. It says, fall on us and hide us from the face of the Lamb who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. Okay, now we're saying, okay, I saw 4 angels standing back, holding back the 4 winds from each corner of the earth, and I saw the angel ascending on the east, having the seal of the living God. And then it says right here, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Now, this right here, the fact that it says, the angel says, do not harm anything, is proof that the judgment hasn't fallen yet. The wrath of God has not fallen yet, because the wrath includes 1/3 of the grass will be burned up. None of this happens. Do not harm the earth. See, so this sealing happens right after the 6th seal, but before the wrath of God is poured out on the earth. That's the middle of the tribulation. Now let's jump back to here, and it says right here, this is how I'm proving to you. Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, which is the first 3.5 years we're talking about, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, stars fall from heaven. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. Okay, remember in Revelation 6? And they will see the Son of Man coming on clouds with great glory. Notice it says that the sign of the Son of Man will appear. Okay? This is not the second coming. This is a sign of the Son of Man. This is when people look up in the sky and they see him. Revelation 7, it gathers the angels will gather the elect. Okay, from the 4 winds of the earth. That's what's going on here. So the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. Now, I'm going to tell you, pre-tribbers, you guys stop diving in and saying, well, this trumpet isn't the same trumpet. You know, let's not try to pull out what we think it might be. This clearly says, the angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of the heaven to the other. Okay, that's when the seal of God is going in the foreheads as well. This is the Lord coming back. If you read Luke 21, I don't have time to get into that, but Luke 21 also goes into this. And this is lightning shines from the east to the west. Okay, this is the Lord is coming, his day, to rain wrath on the earth. Now, I want to step real quick back to show you that this is the end of the age we're talking about. Okay, this is how I know this is the end of the age. This is the middle, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Okay, the midpoint, this is the 6th seal of Revelation. That's the end. This is the end of the age. For when they hear a great sound of a trumpet, go and gather his elect, those saved and those who are written in the book of life. And I want to show you this right here. Let's step back. 24:21. Let's just go to 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, the middle of the tribulation, okay, Daniel 9:27 is where Jesus is referencing this verse. Then let those who are in Judea flee into the mountains, okay. Then he goes into some description. Why are they supposed to flee into the mountains? Verse 21, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no nor ever shall be. Okay, now let's do something else. I'm going to show you. Let's go real quick. I'm trying to make these as fast as I can. Let's go to Daniel 12. Daniel 12:1. And at that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. This is Jesus referencing Daniel 12:1 right here. See? And there shall be a time of trouble, just like Jesus says in Matthew 24:21. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not was since the beginning of the world, nor ever shall be. Okay? It's the same event. But notice what Daniel says right after that. And at that time your people shall be delivered. Everyone who is found written in the book. Clearly, y'all, this is after the tribulation. This is after the middle of the tribulation. In Matthew 24:15, when you see the abomination happen, that's the midpoint of the tribulation. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Verse 21, for then there will be great tribulation. Daniel 12:1, for at that time all your people will be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. Okay, now this same event, now you jump right over to Revelation chapter 7 and you start reading what happens in Revelation chapter 7. That's when the sealing, that's when the great number was seen in heaven with white robes. They came out of the great tribulation. This is it. This is the event. So the thing is, I'm showing in Matthew 24:15, this is the end of the age. This is the question that the disciples asked. Now notice here, for then there will be great tribulation. Okay, I'm sorry, let's step down to verse 31. The sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and he will gather his elect. That's the end of the church age. The church is going home to be with the Lord. That's the end. Okay? And then Jesus jumps into this. He starts jumping in and talking about the parable of the fig tree. He's going on to say, now this is how we're going to know we're in the end. This is what Jesus is saying. So when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Even what? Know that it is near, even at the doors. The end of the age. This is the end of the judgment. Okay, this is with the wrath of God. So this is what we're at. Now it says, surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Now you got to understand, Jesus is going in right after the rapture. Okay, right here, right after the rapture, he starts talking the trumpet, gathering his elect. That's the rapture. At the midpoint of the tribulation. So then he starts jumping into knowing that we're at the end. You see what I'm saying? So 24:31 is the end of the age. That's his answer to the end of the age, the church age. Jesus does not go in to talk about anything that happens in the last half of the tribulation, the last 3.5 years. You know why? Because that's already being reported in the book of Revelation. Okay, the book of Revelation, Jesus, that's where he starts describing what happens in the end. Right? But this right here, keep in mind, he answered their questions, the disciples' questions, and that's what Jesus was talking about. This is the end of the church age. So God bless you all, and thanks for watching.